Something we want to talk about.
You know, no one's allowed to die at Disneyland.
I'm gonna have you institutionalized, drugged up so bad that basically you're unrecognizable and you won't be able to function around your children again.
I think we all remember the Challenger explosion that took place in 1986 that tragically took the lives of all 7 astronauts on board.
Our moon feels like it shouldn't exist. And when you line up the numbers, it starts feeling like somebody put it there on purpose.
If you wanted conspiracy theories to flourish after the 9/11 attacks, here's what you'd do.
Documents that would put lives at risk.
Do you know no one's allowed to die at Disneyland?
Oh, yeah. No, I know that.
They take your body out of the land, and then they go, "No, he's dead."
Yeah,
that's creepy.
Yeah,
dog.
they don't call it until you leave. There was one time where they had to call it because it was very obvious, and
The head is like over there.
kind of someone got decapitated on Matterhorn. And
What? How?
Were they tall?
they stood up, and you can look it up. I believe it was on Matterhorn. You'd think it'd be Space Mountain because that one's dark and you can't see anything, but
Yeah.
like that one they had to call because literally the thing comes back and it's a body without a head.
Oh.
Imagine being on that ride, being behind the guy.
You're like, this is some special effects.
Right,
Like,
right.
This is wild. Disney magic.
To be honest, I'd never heard that one, but it doesn't surprise me in the slightest. I mean, it's all about optics, right? Disney's got a lot of power.
So I think what's the scariest thing about everything in Hollywood is I remember one time, this is a few years back, Kanye West had tweeted out a screenshot that his gym trainer sent him, basically saying like, we got to sit down and discuss some stuff. And if you don't come to the same conclusions that I do and you don't agree with me, I'm going to have you institutionalized, drugged up so bad that basically you're unrecognizable and you won't be able to function around your children again. And the creepiest part is he said, I'm going to send you back to Zombieland. This guy is a man named Harvey who basically is a high level trainer in Hollywood who has trained Kanye. He trained Mac Miller, Brittany Murphy, and Aaron Carter. And what do they all have in common? They passed very suspiciously. And these were people that were kind of starting to speak out about things. Aaron Carter, his death is very suspicious because he was connected to Michael Jackson. They were going to pay Aaron Carter a big chunk of money to basically come out and speak about Michael Jackson and Sony, and he didn't want to do that. And so Aaron Carter's last tweet, or one of his last tweets, was actually to Kanye saying, I want to talk man to man, Kanye. So back to this Harvey guy, he basically says, I'm going to send you back to Zombieland, which is very, very creepy because Kanye also tweeted one time, I'm the real life Get Out. If you're not familiar with that movie, basically they are like soul swapping and taking brain, like it's insane, the experimental stuff that's going on in these movies and basically Hollywood, because they're telling us what's happening, you know? But yeah, so this guy's basically telling Kanye, like, I'm going to send you back to Zombieland. Also, this guy named Harvey was actually used to be a, like, high-level, high-ranking CIA agent in some other country. I think he was from Canada. So weird what they're doing to these celebrities. It is so strange, the connection. And it all goes back to being controlled and being manipulated. And it's just, I want to know what's actually going on and if anybody else has heard of this, because I'm like, this is blowing my mind. When I looked at the other celebrities he trained, I was like, this is such a handler, such a good example of a handler, and basically what happens to you in Hollywood if you go against what they are saying, who are trying to control your life and make you have a certain narrative. And if you go against that, they definitely have ways to take care of that.
Yeah, if you haven't heard of this one before, Harvey Pasternak is a physical trainer, meaning like gym, nutrition, that kind of stuff, right? He gets you physically fit, works with a lot of, A-list celebrities and stuff. And the incident she's talking about is when Kanye was having some mental health episodes and stuff like that. He also released, I think it was a little bit after the big one where he was, committed to a hospital for a while. he released some text messages between him and this trainer, Harvey Pasternak, that are very bizarre. Harvey Pasternak has a connection to Canadian intelligence, which is interesting, in psychological, some type of psychological operations. I don't know all the details and the nuance there. But yeah, this is 100% true. It's proven. And it's very, very bizarre. And as you dive into this rabbit hole, there are a lot of very suspicious red flags, unanswered questions, and you can put together a pattern of events that, in my opinion, is very, very compelling. A lot of this, as she mentioned, is connected to Michael Jackson. If you know the story about Michael Jackson, you can kind of piece together some of these pieces that make you really, really wonder. And one of the things that we've been talking about on this channel is the power of narrative. Narrative is very much constructed through media, not just the news, but pop culture media as well. And so I think that's what's really playing a factor here.
I think we all remember the Challenger explosion that took place in 1986 that tragically took the lives of all 7 astronauts on board. And someone allegedly found almost all of those astronauts alive and well. Now, if you'll notice, they all have the exact same faces 30 some odd years later, the same exact name, and they are the same age.
Now let's focus on Dick Scobie for a second, whose full name at the time of the Challenger mission is actually Francis Richard Scobie. If you don't know, Dick is short for Richard, but we'll get to that. Francis Richard Scobie would be around 75 years old if he were alive today. Now this man, Richard or Dick Scobie, is alive today, and also is currently the age that Francis Scobie would be. Now if you were to show someone these two photos side by side, they would unquestionably believe that it is the same person, right? I mean, just look at the brow, look at the eyes, look at the nose, look at the little gap in the teeth even. Now, Dick Scobie today currently runs an advertising company called Cows and Trees, and this is their logo. Kind of an interesting choice, wouldn't you agree? As of course, many people are making this comparison.
My God. There's been an explosion. 2,900 feet per second, altitude 9 nautical miles, downrange distance 7 nautical miles.
Now, entertaining the possibility that this is some kind of conspiracy, I'm sure back then they didn't really think that the internet would be around today where people could do this kind of research. So of course they're trying to silence this, as when you try and Google it, you don't get many results. And if you speak out, you get silenced.
I'm gonna have to stop.
Sir, this is a public comment. I have a direct request that, will you let me finish for at least 10 seconds?
No, sir, you're finished.
Thank you for taking away my freedom of speech today in here.
I did not take away your freedom of speech.
This one's been around for a while. I've definitely heard of it before. It's so wild to think about this. I'm very much not a flat earther. You can tell. A little spaceman over here. But this one is really compelling. It doesn't mean Earth is flat, the moon's fake, none of that stuff, but it does raise a question of if they did this, why. But yeah, if you look at the pictures of these folks, they look startlingly alike. It's wild. I mean, shockingly alike. It's a better way to say it because I can actually say the word. But it is absolutely wild, and their backgrounds are very similar. Like they're doing similar sort of work that this type of person might have done if they hadn't passed away in the Challenger explosion. It's out there, man. It's really out there. This is one that I find extremely, extremely compelling.
This is the one that's going to make you question everything. The hollow moon theory. Our moon feels like it shouldn't exist, and when you line up the numbers, it starts feeling like somebody put it there on purpose. Let's start with size. Our moon is about a quarter of the size of the Earth, which is freakishly huge compared to other moons and their planets, and I'm not counting Pluto because it's not considered a planet anymore. But get this, the moon is 60% less dense than Earth, way too light for its size. There are only two ways that this works. Either it's porous like a sponge all the way through, or it's a shell around a hollow center. And one of NASA's own, Gordon MacDonald, even said that the data made the moon look more hollow than solid. Now, here's what's baffling. The sun and the moon appear the exact same size in our sky, and nowhere else does this happen. The sun is 400 times wider than the moon, but it sits almost exactly 400 times farther away. Those numbers cancel out perfectly. The famous science writer Isaac Asimov called this the sheerest of coincidences. It's the only reason we get total perfect eclipses, which doesn't happen anywhere else in the solar system. And then there's this. We always see the same side of the moon. Officially, that's because of tidal locking. And to be fair, that isn't unique to our moon, but you have to admit it's a strangely perfect setup for something that doesn't want you seeing its other half. And if people have reported strange flashes, glows, and transient lunar phenomena on the side that we can see, then what's happening on the side that we almost never get to look at? So how did the moon come to be? Well, the leading theory says that a Mars-sized planet called Theia slammed into the early Earth, and the debris became the moon. But test the moon rocks against that, and the isotopes don't show another planet at all. They show that the moon is made of the same stuff as Earth. And then we've got some eerie mythology here too. In ancient Greece, Aristotle wrote of a people in Arcadia called the Procellines. Their name means before the moon, and they told of ancestors who lived on the Earth with no moon in the sky. And they weren't alone. Half a world away, the Muisca of Colombia started their creation story the exact same way. A time when the moon wasn't yet in the sky. Two peoples, two continents, no contact, the same impossible memory. And then, two Soviet researchers took the theory even further. In 1970, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov asked the question that nobody wanted to touch. What if the moon isn't really a moon at all? What if it was constructed, hollowed out, and placed in orbit around Earth by someone else? The more they looked at the early Apollo-era data, the more convinced they became that this idea couldn't be dismissed outright. In their view, there wasn't one single fact that proved that the moon couldn't be artificial. They pointed to strange details in the Apollo data. The moon has no global magnetic field today, yet some of the rocks brought back by Apollo missions were magnetized. Its surface also contains tough, heat-resistant materials like titanium, chromium, and zirconium, the kinds of metals that sound suspiciously like you'd use to build a protective shell. And then there's the crater problem. Hollow moon theorists claim that many lunar craters appear weirdly shallow for their size, almost like incoming meteorites are smashing into the surface and then hitting something underneath that stops them from going deeper. And then there's the big one. During Apollo 12, they crashed the lunar lander into the moon, and according to official reports, the moon rang like a bell for a full hour. The same experiment was carried out with Apollo 13, except they went bigger and dropped a used Saturn V booster, and apparently the moon rang for 3 hours. I'm sure there's an explanation, but usually hollow things ring when they get hit with something. But nah, this is all just an insane theory, right?
Some of the things that he talked about in here, I think, are very, very complicated, complex, and nuanced, that require a pretty deep level of understanding and expertise to really dive into them. So some of the stuff could potentially be written off. The density point that he made in the beginning, that the moon doesn't seem as dense as it should be, is new information to me that is interesting. I'm not quite ready to believe it because I haven't heard it that often. I'd need some more people to come out and explain that to me. That being said, some of these points I have heard in the past, and I do find, and they're mathematically proven, and there's no debate around them. For instance, the fact that we don't see one side of the moon. The rotations of the moon and the Earth are in such a way that it's like perfect. We never see it. I don't understand quite how that works. Or the tidal locking that he mentions. I don't understand how it works, but it's 100% fact. Very, very bizarre. The eclipse thing, also very, very bizarre. Now I mentioned it doesn't happen anywhere else in the solar system. There's only 8 other planets, or 7 other planets rather, in the solar system, so that's not a lot of data points. I would be curious if we've found any other planets and moons like that in other solar systems. I don't know. If we haven't, if we're literally, if we have a data set that includes thousands of planets with moons and not a single one has perfect eclipses like ours, now that's a very bizarre phenomena that I'm willing to admit is like really interesting, but you need more data. It's interesting now alone by itself, but to know how rare it is would be an additional observational point. If this is just a naturally occurring phenomena that happens all throughout the universe, then it's not that big a deal. Some of the other things that he mentioned are really interesting, but I think require a little bit more research. The bell stuff, ringing like a bell, I've never heard that before, and I'm a little bit suspicious of it. Like, my initial reaction to that was, does sound travel in a vacuum? Is that even possible? So I'm not saying it doesn't, I'm saying I don't know. Some data points here that I need to research. So I think the picture for me is not complete, but there are some interesting points that I'm willing to concede that make you wonder what's going on. Is it possible? And I think that's the point that you have to admit to, even on the things that you don't really put a lot of stock into. And this is something that I think holds a lot of water when you talk about political conspiracies, which can be proven. When you're talking to skeptics, normies, you have to point that out. Like, if you can't prove that the conspiracy is false, then it's possible it's true. And I think the same has to hold true here, even though I don't like to go in on flat earth or moon is hollow or space is fake kind of stuff. I don't think the moon being hollow proves space is fake or that the earth is flat. I think there's other reasons for it, potentially, like it's artificial, it was created potentially by who knows, right? Similarly to the point I was making about the political conspiracies, if you're not able to disprove the theory, then you have to leave the door open to it possibly being true, and I think that's the case here. There's enough interesting phenomena and observations about the moon, like the tidal locking stuff and the things that we've talked about, that you have to admit that it's interesting and possible something is going on here.
7 places you'll get killed for entering, and this man not playing. Number 1 is the Coca-Cola vault. This vault has the recipe locked away, and only 2 people know this recipe, and they're not even allowed to go inside the vault. Number 2, we have a seed vault in Norway. Now, this is a doomsday vault buried inside a frozen mountain, and it holds 1.3 million seeds to restart humanity after extinction. Bro, it's like when you think that the world don't have everything figured out, you see stuff like this and be like, bro, what? Number 3, everybody know this, it's Area 51 that's located in the United States. Now, this is the most secretive military base on Earth, and it's like a shoot to kill if you go over there. That basically means, bro, like if you walk up there, they're allowed to shoot and kill you. And I don't know about y'all, but I think that is crazy. Like, what are y'all hiding that we can't see? Like, I don't feel like it's natural for us to be on this earth to not experience everything on it. And for our 4th one, North Sentinel Island. This is based in India. This is a tribe that has been untouched for 60,000 years, and they kill anyone who approaches. The last visitor was literally in 2018. I don't know. Now, for the 5th place, we have the Snake Island. This is located in Brazil. Now, this island contains 4,000 venomous vipers and 1 snake per square meter. What? And the venom that these snakes have, it melts human flesh. Civilians are permanently banned from this island. And number 6 is the Vatican Secret Archives. This is located in Vatican City. If I said that wrong, bro, please spare me in the comments. This has 53 miles of hidden shelves underground. Sealed for 250 years, only a handful of scholars are even allowed inside. Like, what makes them so special? You understand what I'm saying? What makes them so special to go in and not us, the public, the civilians? And for number 6, we have Qin Shi Huang's tomb. This is located in China. This is like the first emperor's tomb, sealed for 2,000 years. 8,000 clay soldiers found outside, and nobody is allowed to open it. Why? Why? If you like this video, make sure you like, comment, and share it. The more you engage, the more that I know you want more videos like this.
The last one about the first emperor of China is there is an argument for why they do that. I studied archaeology in university, and we studied this tomb. It's this is the famous tomb as he's showing in the clip with the terracotta warriors out front. They excavated part of it, including that chamber with the terracotta warriors. But there is ancient texts that talk about this tomb, and so pretty detailed manner. So they knew that it existed. They didn't, if I recall correctly, they didn't know where it was. Eventually it was discovered. They discovered the terracotta warriors, and that confirmed whose tomb this was, because that was in the descriptions of the ancient texts. And in the ancient texts, it's like a bunch of chambers that you go through to finally get to the emperor's actual resting place. And each chamber is different. Some of them are extremely elaborate. And the argument of the Chinese government of why they don't want to excavate this or explore it further is because they are concerned with damaging what's in the chambers without better technology. So their argument is we're going to leave it as is until technology develops to a point where we're more confident in excavating it properly. So that's the argument there and why they're not doing it. That being said, all the games that have been played in Egypt around the pyramids really make you wonder. After you see that, knowing that the next most ancient, or one of the next most ancient civilizations out there that we have a lot of information on is China, and seeing the games being played in Egypt around restricting access to certain areas of the pyramid, it really make you wonder if similar games aren't being played here. So interesting point. The only other comment I'm gonna make on this one is the Area 51 stuff is wild, man. You never seen some of the clips on YouTube and stuff like that of people trying to get into Area 51. You should go check it out. They do not play around. If you drive anywhere close to that, you're getting stopped. And some of the clips out there, there's one in particular where these guys are driving along and another car comes along with two older women who claim they're also trying to get in, and they stop the guys and they start talking and da-da-da-da-da. The guys are like, yeah, you can follow us, we'll all go together. And they start going, and then all of a sudden the car takes off way ahead of them and then disappears. And then all of a sudden some troops show up and they get stopped. But who were those two women? Like, it seemed like they were plants there to discover what was going on with these guys. So they do not mess around when it comes to Area 51. Some very, very wild things have happened, and there's a bunch of clips on YouTube. So check it out.
If you wanted conspiracy theories to flourish after the 9/11 attacks, here's what you'd do. You'd suppress video evidence of the attacks themselves. You'd ship the rubble from the attacks overseas immediately without looking at it. You'd call everyone who disputed the official narrative crazy or a criminal. You'd engage in a campaign of very obvious lies about the attacks. You'd do everything you could to prevent an actual investigation into what happened. You'd avoid any public trials. And when you captured and killed the perpetrator, you'd show no photos or video evidence of the raid that killed him, and then you'd dump his body into the middle of the ocean. Then you'd use the attack to justify the invasion of a completely unrelated country on behalf of a foreign power.
Yeah, pretty strong feelings about 9/11. If you haven't researched some of that stuff, it's probably one of the biggest ones, certainly in my opinion, the biggest event of, let's call it the early 21st century, but, 20th as well, leading up to the end of the 20th. Anyways, it's a wild one, and here's the thing, is we don't know what happened, right? People talk about, oh, this is what happened, that would happen. I don't know. I'm not going to go in and say I have any confidence in any theory that's been proposed out there. What I do have confidence in is that the official narrative doesn't seem to add up, and it leaves unanswered questions or posits just false data or false narratives. So many things are questionable, from the skill of the pilots being not making sense. The maneuver that the plane went through to hit the Pentagon has been replicated by hundreds of pilots with thousands and thousands of flight hours, and some of the best pilots in the world, they cannot reproduce that maneuver. So how did some guy with barely any training pull it off. Like they said, all of the footage, all the rubble being transported away, some of the issues with steel. I've changed my opinions on the steel argument, or I'm on the fence with that one still, but still questionable. The fact that the rubble was like, the site was uninhabitable for like months because of the heat. The temperature was insanely high for like months afterwards, which has never really happened before in other buildings coming down. Building 7 doesn't make any sense. Look into Building 7. There's a gentleman who was in Building 7 famously who passed away in suspicious circumstances after starting to talk about 9/11 and some of the things that don't add up. What's his name? Silverstein, the guy who owned the World Trade Center. Look into his story, very bizarre. The elevator company is another questionable point. Frankly, the dancing folks that were found across the river and were held for like 48 hours before being allowed to return to their home country. If you know what I'm talking about, you know. But go look up all of these things. There's a lot of question marks and things that just don't add up that should throw up a lot of red flags about what went on in that day. And it requires further investigation, and I don't think we'll ever get it.
We've been shown what this reptilian entity looks like. There's a photograph of Salvador Dali, a real initiate. By the way, I studied with the same Kabbalist who taught Salvador Dali. She never showed me this. It's an image of a reptilian that he's holding up like this. And it's about, 6-7 inches tall. Now, this reptilian, sort of where we have our third eye, has a protruding horn-like figure in the center of its forehead, on top of its head. That's called the proboscis. That comes off and goes into the eye, and within 2 weeks kills the human soul and takes over the memories and consciousness. That's why they call it soul scalping. And they have found really similar reptilians in animals that they don't understand how it's gotten into the animal's head, how it's gotten into their brain. Animals who were behaving strangely and had to be put down. So the whole thing is really mysterious. And those who have had the black eye very often start behaving differently. Now, have we seen Trump with the black eye? No. We've seen him with the red left eye. And is he behaving erratically? Oh, he's doing some really cool stuff, right? But also, 1 week he's coming out and talking about the evils of mRNA and what's going on in Israel. Then the next week he's saying crazy things about Gaza and promoting AI and mRNA shots. So it seems really inconsistent. Now, this may not be necessarily due to a virile parasite. It could be clones, and we'll come on to that in a moment.
This guy was kind of all over the place, man, and that's coming from someone who tends to ramble and is all over the place himself. But I mean, I was kind of with him there for a second. Like, I'm willing to have keep space open for these types of realities. Like I said, I think there's enough evidence out there nowadays where you cannot disprove aliens being real and they're having some type of presence on Earth. I mean, statistically speaking, there's other intelligent life in the universe. If you understand how large the cosmos are, and you understand a basic understanding of statistics, that's not debatable. So just statistically speaking, there's other intelligent life in the universe. The only thing that's debatable is whether or not they have a presence on Earth. And I think there's enough, rough disclosure that has happened now where you have to leave space for that possibility. So when you start talking about things like, here's the reptilians and this is how they operate, I leave space for that. When you see people like this who come in and they have all the answers, and this is why they call it soul scalping, and this is how they control you, and when they have all the answers, that's where I go, okay, you're probably full of it. Because how do you know? I mean, anyone who's on the internet talking about this stuff is on the radar of the people who are really in control. You know what I'm talking about? So if you were anywhere close to reality and you had any sort of evidence that could demonstrate it, you wouldn't be allowed to go on the internet and talk about it if it's real. So just keep that in mind, right? They whack people way higher level than whoever this goofy guy is. So, I mean, we just talked about the celebrity stuff. If you know about the celebrity stuff with Harvey Pasternak and you know, the sort of case that you can build for what's going on there, they're whacking people like Michael Jackson, right? Historically speaking, politically speaking, they're whacking people like JFK, RFK, Malcolm X, Martin Luther King. You don't think they're gonna whack some goofy guy who's talking on the internet nobody's even heard of? Of course they will, if he has anything real. Before you even get a chance, there's no risk of whacking this guy. Of course they're gonna do it. Or catch you up in something, right? They have ways to take care of you. So if that is going on, if there's some deep conspiracy to hide the fact that aliens are real and they're on Earth and they're controlling our politicians and high-level people, why would they allow you to talk about it? That's the only thing that doesn't make a lot of sense to me. And I think this is just about getting attention and wanting to feel special. Yeah, so a lot of different things shown here. The one that is really interesting to me is that pyramid with the debt slaves at the bottom. As you go farther up that pyramid, I don't know how much of it I believe in. You start to get to, I'm looking at the pyramid now, and the top 4 layers, powerful subfamilies, which include the Round Table, think tanks, the Trilateral Commission, Royal Institute of International Affairs, the Club of Rome, the Bilderberg Group, United Nations, Council on Foreign Relations. That layer right there, those things do exist, obviously. So that one, I'm a little bit more inclined to believe. It's when you start getting the Committee of 300 and this Crown Council of 13 where I start to question the level of organization at those higher levels, for sure. Even at that think tank level, how coordinated is the Bilderberg Group with the Council on Foreign Relations? I don't know. I'm not saying they're not. And how coordinated are those things with the Trilateral Commission of Club of Rome? So this is where I talk about it's like Game of Thrones. Probably at that level, that's my guess. And is there anything above that? This Committee of 300, the Council of 13, that's where we really don't know. That's where it gets real cloudy. Everything below that, to me, absolutely maps out. World Financial Control is definitely up there along with World Resource Control, right? So if you control all the gas, you control the stock markets, you control all the banks, you basically control the world. And people hate hearing that, but it's like, if they turn off your access to money, you can't buy food, that's it. It's game over, right? So that is real power. And they have methods to keep you in line. A lot of it is built around debt, 100%. And so this pyramid is definitely something that, this is the first time I'm seeing it like this, but I like it. I like easy frameworks to understand. And this to me, definitely maps on to some version of what's actually going on in reality. I'm gonna end it there for today. Guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. Please like, subscribe, comment down below. What do you think about some of the stuff we've talked about today, especially the celebrity stuff that we talked about? Harvey Pasternak, have you heard of this before? What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on what happened to Michael Jackson? I'd love to hear it. All right, guys, we'll be back with another one tomorrow. See you then. Thanks.